Okay, this is my Sound Workshop Series 40/1600 mixing console that may soon be your Sound Shop Series 40/1600 mixing console. I did an insane amount of work on this. It'll be in the description if you want to go through detailed description. Basically bought a whole another mixing console to modify some of these channel strips. Bypass the VCAs, which add a lot of noise, distortion, and were kind of a weak point in the chain. So this has Alps faders on every channel, including these, which are, I'll get to in a second here, but these are also modified by myself and Richee Vee, and as a part of the whole console package deal. Removed the automation computer that was in here. The plan was to make this a hinged little thing. Right now it's just a piece of wood kind of wedged in there, but the plan was to make that hinged. You can open this up and there is let's just get to that. There's space under here, so you could turn that into a little storage space for random cables, TT patch cables, whatever, this or that. Or another thing I was thinking about doing is just cutting this out, the bottom here, and having short rack space stuff. Even probably couldn't move the patch bays down here because there's not enough space, but like basically more rack space for more stuff. So you got a couple options there. Of course, I never got to that, but that was the plan. Big thing on this console is that the patch bays have been upgraded to proper high-end TT patch bays. You also see I never really got finished with the labeling. I just had a chart that I worked off of. I just worked off of this piece of paper for all the mapping, but that will all kind of be a moot point because the cabling, of course, is unplugged from all of my outboard gear, tape machines, tie lines, all of that, and it will be going to yours. So I'm sure the labeling will obviously be redone accordingly as well. So anyway, this video is just to go over the console as a whole and just kind of explain what you're getting. So actually, let's start over here with the patch bay, because these have been all replaced. Every wire on the back of here is soldered, normaled, according to the patch bay diagram, which I will include. There's a few connections down here that are not normaled, but pretty much everything up here, microphone inputs or tie lines, are normaled to the microphone inputs. The console bus outputs are normal to tape line inputs. Tape line outputs are normal to console line inputs. The console line outputs normal to a digital interface, and the digital interface is normaled line outputs, normal to console line inputs, and some 500 series. Oh, this is an MX10. It's a little submixer thing. And then console bus outputs were, oh, that's the tape machine. These are extra console bus outputs. So the normaling for the console was designed by a studio technician who works for Condor Electronics here locally, does really, really high-end work, and he designed the normaling on this console that basically follows the stock layout of the stock TT patch bay that comes with the console, except that stock TT patch bay is a plastic. I'm not going to say it's a piece of junk, but it's not as high end as like Switchcraft. You know, it's nowhere near that level, and it doesn't allow you to easily reconnect things, re-terminate things, change things to accommodate your own needs. So this is just a much better solution, and this took months of work to do. Everything is labeled meticulously. Let's see if we can peek back here. Yeah, you know what? Let's take this top off. So there's a very nice solid wood top on this. I think this is maybe oak or something. I think it is oak. Let's take this puppy off. And get back here. So all of these ends are labeled. So you can see the little connections down here. And all of this soldering is done quite well and these, you know, you can't see all the way down there into the patch bay. But if you ever needed to redo this or whatever, what you would do is just unhook this top patch bay, peel it back, go to the next one, peel it back, and just kind of solder, desolder as needed, change the normals as needed for your requirements. The cabling used is really good cabling. It is a mixture of different types of cabling. As you can see, some of it is Megami cabling, some of it is like EWI or Rapco Horizon stuff, some of it is snake cabling, but all of the connectors are going to be either Switchcraft style, this sort of style, or mostly Nichicon XLR ends. Mostly Nichicon. I think this is some Megami cable. This, I think, is Megami. You can see there are lots of cabling back there. Lots of cabling on this side. There's a lot of Megami over there, if I recall correctly. You can see this frame is extremely beefy, really, really well built. I'm gonna leave this, there's a power supply kind of mounted underneath here with a heavy duty power cord, which is going to our outlet. And then there's also a very heavy duty green grounding strap for that power supply. Oh yeah, here we go. That provides a really good solid ground. So that's a great power supply to use for the console outboard gear. We had to go into this bus bar and it was dead quiet, incredibly quiet. Oh, and here you can see this is looking underneath. So this is looking up, you know, at this space here. So if you did want to turn this into rack space, you could just cut out that panel at the bottom. The only thing that's going to impede you is this crossbar, which obviously needs to stay here. That's a mount for the console. But you could cut here, you could cut here on this side and get probably something like 3 or 4 rack space right here and 4 or 5 rack space up here. And then the crossbar would have to be a short thing, so maybe a power supply, something like that. Yeah, so that's the cabling, patch base. Oh, one more thing about the cabling. It's labeled on the other end as well. So everything, base 7, top 1 through whatever, this is not terminated. These obviously are terminated, and each one of them labeled. So this, for example, bay 1, bottom 42. So that would be bay 1, bottom 42, whatever. Everything on the patch bay that I tested works, except one connection, console bus 10 output to, let's see, console, no, it was a direct output. Let's see, going to the line inputs, different inputs. It was going down to digital inputs. Oh boy, I will include it in the description, but the 10 output, I had to manually patch with a cable from bus 10 output to my digital interface inputs, or wherever it was going to, because the normaling there was messed up and it didn't work. It wouldn't be too hard to fix. You just peel back this top patch bay and solder directly, or maybe peel back the second one, and so you can get in there and, you know, figure out what the issue is there. Pretty much all this stuff on these top patch bays are tested, and some of the stuff on the bottom, I just didn't get to use every single thing on here. The console effect sends and all the aux mixes and stuff. I usually did headphones in the box and Pro Tools. I didn't use the slate outputs and all the master section stuff. I did use the oscillator. The oscillator does work, which is, it's a really cool oscillator on this console. It gives you a lot of options. But, you know, I didn't test every single thing down here, but we did take a lot of care to solder this and really get it right. So I would be surprised if there were more than, you know, beyond that one issue, maybe 1 or 2 more max. But I don't think there's really going to be any issues in that regard. Okay, I think that's good on the wiring side of things. let's get to the modifications here. So I mentioned the VCA bypass. These are Alps faders. The one kind of quirk with the Alps faders is that 0 point here, 0 is no longer actually 0 on the labels. Calibrated all these channels and all the channels behind here, which are the original Series 40 channels that look like this. And when I calibrated them, line output 1.23 volts volts AC, nominal at 1 kilohertz. 0 dB was somewhere around like here, closer to like -6-ish, something like that. So not a big deal. If you wanted some extra headroom, you could bump it up to 0 if your interface can handle it. But just so you know, this 0 is not actually 0 dB on the output, with the nominal input level being, 1 kilohertz at that perfect, calibrated level. Other than that, this has been a great modification. These faders are super clean, not scratchy, smooth, very nice to mix on. Way less problematic than the frickin' VCAs that were in here initially. Those things were, when I was testing these channels, and I went through this console with a fine-tooth comb, made an entire test rig. My tech spent tons of hours on this. I spent tons of hours on this. And those VCAs were causing issues pretty regularly. So bypassing them is a very good idea. All of these channels work flawlessly. Off the top of my head, I have some notes. Occasionally there'll be a button that's a little, you gotta, wiggle a button to get it to work. But keeping the console on and using it regularly helps a lot. If you let it sit for a long time, you're going to run into more issues. Worst case scenario, if one of these switches or buttons is acting up on you, just jog it or pop a little deoxit here. Actually, I have a little thing here. I just put some deoxit on these little tiny things, and I could get them down into these grooves, and they'll be fine. It's fine after that. But the best thing about this console is it sounds absolutely amazing. It really, really sounds good. I will include some demo recordings in the sale here. There's a lot of really cool stuff we did with these, but I think the one that really shows it off the most is we recorded Tony Royster Jr. on drums. If you know who Tony Royster Jr. is, this guy is, a world-class drummer. He played with Jay-Z at Barack Obama's inauguration. Like, he's that level of drummer. I think he's got a house gig with Katy Perry right now in Las Vegas at the MGM. And he was tracked mostly through this console. There was some outboard 500 series stuff up here, but I think we had like 3 or 4 500 series preamps. Everything else was this console. And he was playing with a band with bass, guitar, keys, and it sounds amazing. Sounds really, really good. I mean, you be the judge. You tell me. But to me, it sounded really, really good. And that was not using these channels. So let's get over to this stuff here. These channels are from a 1600 console. So you can see up here, it says 1600. So you're like, okay, so it's the Sound Workshop Series 1600. Well, then what's this down here? Sound Workshop Series 40. Well, then which is it? 40 or 1600? Well, if you know much about Sound Workshop consoles, and this line is kind of a rare one. This was after the 34C and before the 54. So it's right in between that, where you get a lot of the like analog look and all this stuff. It's doesn't have all the bells and whistles and craziness of the 54. But it's got a lot more than the 34C, but it's still got this analog old school vibe. So they're basically the same thing. The 1600 and the Series 40 are the same console, same pinout, same master section, almost the same VU meters, very, very similar. In fact, I'm pretty sure, I've never tried it, but see this? Pretty sure that's just a sticker. And I'm pretty sure that underneath that, it's probably going to say Series 1600. And this is the original Series 41 that came with this is a Series 40 frame. So getting back to these channels, what are these things? These are from a 1600, and the main difference being with the 1600 is that they have transformers on the inputs. So you can see these output module view meter things look a little bit different. And if you were able to, if you had x-ray glasses and you could get down and see under there, there is an API transformer hiding underneath there. Now API, they sourced their transformer. They didn't make the transformers themselves, but they were the same transformers used in API consoles at the time in the 70s, early 80s, when these things were made or designed or sourced. So these Series 40 channel strips are transformerless, very clean, incredible clean sound, like a clean API sound. And you know, people will say they're not really APIs, they don't have the API lineage. You know, I have some API stuff and some CAPI stuff, which is like better than API. It's more API than API. This definitely has an API sound. It's definitely got that lineage. These are, I would say, a little cleaner than APIs. Dead quiet, great transients. They don't have quite as much transformer mojo. These ones are almost the same exact circuit, but they have transformers up at the top here. And what's really cool is each one is a little bit different. So you can see these first ones. I did the kind of transition. So these all have fully parametric EQ. All of these Series 40 have fully parametric EQ. These still retain mostly parametric EQ. You don't have the switches here, but you have a sweepable bands and boost and cut. Same over here. Now you're getting over to here. You have more of an API 550 style EQ, where you have selectable bands and a boost and cut and no Q. So now you're getting into more of the, you know, the old school API 550 style EQ. Richee Vee told me that basically they, Sound Workshop ripped off as much of the API circuitry as they possibly could without getting sued. If you know anything about these, the designers that made these consoles and designed these circuits came from API. They designed the 550. These are folks that did the 550 and the 512 and 560 EQs, a lot of the famous API circuits of all time. So they borrowed as much, or, you know, took inspiration from as much of their own, that design language as they possibly could without getting sued. So I have not actually got to try these channels. My dream was, and I guess kind of accomplished, was to put these channels in and make this cool, modifiable, modular console where you can have the super clean, amazing sounding Series 40 channels over here, and then you have a bank of channels that is a little more vibey, a little more old school, funky kind of sound, maybe a little limited on the, you know, the EQs and stuff like that. You don't have as many bus sends. The Series 40 has 6 with stereo, no, 8 bus sends. You got stereo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then selectable pre-post, and then there's some panning. Once you get up here, I think you can separate these up into mono sends, but I want to say it's like the center 2. I don't know. Anyway, 8 bus sends over here. You can see on this guy, you've got 1, 2, and then aux 3 is a stereo, if I recall. Aux 3, yeah, this is 3, 4. So you basically have 4 on here. 1, 2, 3, 4 mono, or 1, 2, 3 stereo bus send with a panner here. And then also, of course, you know, pre-post switching. Why does it have 2 pre-posts here? I don't know why that has pre-post and then also another pre-post. I don't know on that. Again, I never got to use these channels. I just put them in. Really, really excited for this. Some of these have other transformers down inside here. They're these little, what are they called? Bumblebee transformers. They're little, or peanut transformers, like biodynamic style peanut transformers. They used on some Ampex gear, and if you know, you'll know what I'm talking about. They're little peanut style transformers, and they're down here somewhere like around the EQ section. And I don't know what they do. There's definitely a big transformer up here for the input. I know that's on the microphone and maybe the line input side of things. And I think this other transformer probably has something to do with the EQ here. I don't know for sure. Then some of these have transamp preamp modules like the Series 40, and then other ones have a different design of preamp module. I want to say these first 4 have the transamp pre. So they have the transformer on the input, transamp pre, and I believe there's also a transformer on the EQ. These other ones have the transformer on the input, not the transamp pre, and they have the 550 style, fixed frequency, fixed switchable frequency boost cut EQ. Okay. So that's that for the channel strips, I think. Now, we also have, which you'll see in the listing over here, it comes with the original 1600 channels to put in here. So if you did say, hey, I just want the original Series 40 channels, if you just say, hey, I want all Series 40, I don't want any of this 1600 stuff, cool. Put the Series 40 modules back in. The only thing about Series 40 is the last 4-ish, I don't know exactly, but I want to say 4-ish, have issues of some sort or another. So if you did that, you would probably want to put them all in there. If you wanted them all to match, put them all in there, and the last 4 don't work, and whatever. I would probably put them in there and then put maybe these 4, because these are all kind of matching. You still get the mostly parametric EQ. They have the transamp pre's, and they have transformers on the inputs. Cool. And then you got the last 4 being a different variety, and you should have, your full channel count. One other thing about these. These, I believe, are modified by Richee. This is some sort of bus level output. Again, I never got to use this. I know that on these, the bus level, you don't have any output control on the bus level. I believe it's controlled by the fader, but it's not. It follows the fader. So if you're doing a mix on your faders, it's going to affect your bus outs, I believe. It's not like a direct out. I believe what this is effectively gives you another mix on your bus level. So if you're going to tape or something and you're using your buses up here to go to tape, you have like another mix that you can do going to tape separate from your main mix. I think that's the purpose of these. Unfortunately, Richee's no longer with us. We can't ask him what his intent was on this, but that's really cool. Another cool thing that is a Richee Vee mod is he put these power status indicator lights on here, which is super, super cool and super helpful. So this board is broken up into several sections. Channels 1 through 8, 9 through 16, 17 through master. And in fact, I don't even think that's right for the way the power supplies work on this board. If I recall correctly, it's 1 through 16 and then 17 through master. So there are 2 power supplies. I'm pretty sure on this implementation, I'm certain 1 through 16 is 1 power supply, and then 17 through master is another power supply. Either way, this will show you the status of your power and phantom power. So that's super helpful. It's not hooked up to anything right now. It's just going into the back here, but there's some wires under here. You would just hook them up to the incoming power supply rails, and then boom, you see what's going on with your power supplies. Okay, so getting to another really, really cool thing that I'm bummed I'm not going to be the one who's going to get to check this out, because this is super, super cool. Really bummed that this is not going to be in my hands, but man, I really hope this goes to a good home, because this is a really special, like, super cool thing. So this is a master section modified by Richee Vee, fully restored and modified by Richee, and he made these custom graphics. And I remember when he was making these, he was just obsessed with these graphics, and he was constantly texting me pictures of these graphics and like screenshots and PDFs of these graphics. And what do you think about this? What do you think about this color? He was super stoked about these graphics. And he made these custom faders, master faders for the aux outputs, which is super cool. He put these big, huge knobs for your main mix monitor controls. And as you can see, they're color coded for each of the monitors. And I believe that also matches the colors on here for, let's see, aux. Well, no, wait, that would not match, right? Monitor, this is Studio Q. Yeah, no, you could make that match if you assigned that to be your Q mix, the aux, that aux 2, set that to your Q mix, then that could potentially match. But anyway, so this is, again, just a super, super cool piece that I'm really bummed I'm not going to be able to implement. But the long and short of it is that not only do you have this super cool custom made master section from Richee Vee, but you now have 2 master sections. So you have this one, and you could use the existing one that's in the console as a spare, or vice versa. You could use this one as your spare and use the existing one as your main. This one, oh, and this is one other thing. This is a long video, so good for you if you're still watching this. This one and all of the Series 40 channel strips have been insanely recapped. I went absolutely overboard with the recapping on this. Every single electrolytic capacitor has been changed out to Nichicon or Panasonic FM where applicable. We did the Nichicon Elka, whatever the high-end one that people love. It's a bipolar capacitor. It's said to be audiophile grade. We didn't use that everywhere because you don't want to put bipolar caps everywhere. But not only recapped just a few years ago with top-of-the-line Nichicon and Panasonic capacitors, but the values were doubled on everything that didn't involve EQ circuitry. So if it was an EQ circuit, we kept the values the same because that could affect the frequencies. Other than that, capacitance values doubled on everything, and voltage values doubled on everything, and heat tolerances increased as much as possible, still allowing the capacitors to fit in place. And of course, we tried to get the longest life ones possible. So these have been heavily upgraded. That was one of the big downsides of these consoles. They use cheap capacitors. And if you're buying a Sound Workshop console, I highly recommend recapping the whole thing, or at the very least recapping caps that need it. And there will be caps that need it because they just cheaped out on capacitors, which is really unfortunate because they're great consoles otherwise. Don't have to worry about that with these ones, at least on the Series 40 channel strips. On the 1600 channel strips, some of the capacitors have been changed. It doesn't look like they've been completely gone through. I still see some of the original yellow capacitors in there, but it has been partially recapped from what I can tell. I honestly didn't look at that master section that Richee did, but I would guess if Richee did it, it's tip-top. I don't know if it's all been completely recapped, but it's certainly adequate. These are ludicrous. The doubling the capacitance gives you better low frequency extension where needed. So you can put a sub kick on one of these channels or track a bass directly into one of these channels. You will have no problems with low end. It is there. It is there. Yeah, you'll hear that in Tony Roaster Jr. recordings. I might post some other recordings that we've done, but like literally, you can track a sub kick on this console, and you will get the lows out of this thing. It's that good. It's really, really good. Gone through cabling, gone through this patch bays. Oh, the tie lines at the top of the patch bays I made them patchable into different points. So you see you've got 48 microphone tie line inputs here, and this is our little sub panel for different rooms all around our studio. So the way I designed this is that you have 6 D subs coming out of the back of the console that you can patch into any of these tie lines. So if you are tracking a band in everybody's in one room, you patch all your D subs or whatever you need into that one room. If everybody's in different rooms, you'd maybe do one in one room, one in another room, or another room, and they patch all over the place. So what you end up with is, and these are Planet Waves, the Diodario modular snakes, so they're really high quality. So this is 1 through 8. So that's the top patch panel there, microphone tie line 1 through 8. And this one is 41 through 48. So that's tie lines 41 through 48. So if you have, let's say you have D sub connections on your, wherever, on the wall or something, cool, patch them directly in. If you have XLR, just get XLR converters, and then you've got, just patch these in directly to XLR. And then there you go. You could even patch those into an XLR panel mount like patch bay and have these be a little XLR patch bay if you wanted direct access like in your control room. And in fact, that's one thing you could do in here, which I did not have. Although there is hiding somewhere here, there is an XLR patch panel that I think goes into the last 8 channels. There is an actual little 1 rack unit XLR patch panel, but it's not, I don't know, it's not the highest quality. And again, like I said, these last 4 channels were kind of funky anyway, so I never used it. I probably I would either redo it or kind of just check it out anyway. But you could do a little XLR patch bay right here for that short one if you decide to cut these out and utilize this as rack space. And then that could be like your direct patch input via D sub if you wanted. Okay, I think that's it for the console in here. Let me go show you real quick the power supplies and some patching for the tape outputs, because this was intended to go to a tape machine. I got a JH24 here, and all of these panels. So I may end up trying to sell this as a lot, because it really does. It's pretty incredible how well this goes together. Oh, that label must have come off. That label came off too. Oh, right, no, I might just, oh, it's on the end here. I'm looking at the wrong part. So you've got these Elco patch points here for all the channels on the tape machine, and then they go to this wall. Sorry, we're in the process of moving all this stuff. They go to this wall panel here. So these connections tie directly into the patch bay, and they're labeled on the patch bay, and this will be included with the patch bay. So I'm going to unscrew all this, bring it back through that wall, and this will be, you know, included in that bundle of wires with the patch bay. So if you ended up buying our tape machine, or maybe you have another tape machine, or you have something else where you want to patch an Elco to another room, boom, there you go, right there. And then this tape machine also includes not a ladder. It includes the remote control, the auto locator, and this is the wiring for the auto locator. And I just, you know, obviously had it coming through here, and again going through the wall into there. So if I end up listing it, I probably will list it with the tape machine. You know, if you want the tape machine, there'll be a separate listing for that, and I'll have more information about that. But this is the wiring for that. Then we get in here to the power supplies. The power supplies have also been completely gone through and recapped. There is one module in one of these that has the original caps, but it's a brand new module, so it's not like an old module. And that noise is from our NAS. That's not the noise of these power supplies. The NAS sounds like a freaking helicopter, but these are actually pretty much dead silent. Yeah, there's not much to say about those. They have been recapped, and they sound great. There's very low ripple. I've measured the ripple on the output, the DC output from those, and it is very, very, very low. One thing worth mentioning is the connections in the back. Right now, they are hardwired, so they're hard soldered and then they go directly through the wall. There is not like a CPC connector or some sort of power connector that you can just unplug. They're hardwired, coming out of the power supply, going through the wall. So I'm going to have to cut that. And I may or may not have time or hire one of my techs to re-terminate that with some sort of CPC connector or otherwise. Look in the listing for that to see if that has been done or not, but that's the one caveat. Easily accessible. You take this out, you've got these covers on top. This one, you've got an amp, but you got this metal kind of grating cover up there. And yeah, that's power supplies. I think that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. The listing will be on Reverb. It'll be on probably on eBay, Facebook Marketplace, all this stuff until it sells. And the only reason I'm selling this thing is because of this. This guy here. There would be no way I would sell that console if it weren't for this. We just got an insane deal. It just came in, and it's bittersweet because obviously this is a killer console. This is all 1073s, full analog with digital controls and automation, 1084 dynamics on every channel, 1084 EQs on every channel, full rack, patch bay, wiring. It's an incredible console. I would not be selling my sound workshop if it weren't for this. Even then, I was almost considering not going this and just keeping my sound workshop because it really does sound that good. It really, bang for the buck, you can't beat it. There's no way, you're not going to beat that console. Routing wise, you're not going to beat that console. The sound, you're not going to beat that console. For the money, it's just, the modifications, the amount of work that's gotten put into it, how impressive it looks, its stature in a studio, it's incredible. But you know, it's not a Neve. And so this is what we're going with. It also saves a little space in there so we can fit some racks in place. So anyway, that's the only reason selling the Sound Workshop. But again, it is bittersweet because it's an amazing console and I am going to miss it a lot. So I hope it goes to a good home. Again, if you have any further questions about it, please reach out to me on Reverb or Facebook Market or possibly eBay. All right. Aloha.